All right, this section of the SAT that we're covering is called Interpreting Linear Models. These are a set of notes, and then there's going to be some practice problems for you to do kind of towards the end. So let's take a look at it. It says on the SAT, you will usually find 3 to 4 problems that involve interpreting linear models. So when you think about 3 to 4 problems, you're looking at 30 to 40 points, SAT points, roughly, for each problem. So these are a pretty good chunk of the test. They usually give you real-life problems modeled by a linear equation. Linear meaning there's not going to be any powers or exponents. Most questions involve you applying your understanding of slope and y-intercept. All right, these are going to be really important. I know you're used to seeing, most of you guys are probably familiar with y equals mx plus b. And if you recall, this constant, or the number by itself, is the y-intercept. And the coefficient sitting in front of your variable is usually your slope. And what I'm really going to try to get you to hammer home is this idea of slope really is a rate of change. It's either an increase or a decrease. So whenever you think about the slope, I need you to associate increase or decrease. All right? Whenever you see a y-intercept or a constant or a number sitting by itself, I want you to think of that as the starting point, okay, or some people would say the initial value. All right? It's how much something is worth or weighs or the temperature at the beginning if you haven't increased or decreased anything yet. So let's look at an example, and this might be a little bit easier. So it says example 1, scroll this up a little bit. Example 1, the value V in dollars of a home from 04 to 14 can be estimated by an equation. So let's go ahead and focus on the equation here. And it says T is the number of years since 2004, and V was dollars. So that's kind of the first thing you need to be aware of is, what do our units mean? V is money, T is years since 2004. So let's make a little chart of that. So basically we have our equation, 225,000 minus the 5,000 T. Now I want you to think y equals mx plus b terms. This one is actually kind of written in y equals b minus mx. Because notice our y-intercept, or our constant, is in the front. And then the slope, or the piece with the variable, is in the back. So they kind of reversed it around, which is fine. It's still linear. So let's make a little table here. So we have our years, we have our money, and so dollars and years since 2004. So let's just plug some values in this thing. So in 2004, that would be 0 years since 2004, because that's how they defined it here. Well, if I put 0 in for T, that would be 225,000 minus 0. So what these numbers just mean then, in 2004, that's how much a house was worth. Well, now if you move on the next year to 2005, that would be 1 year since 2004. And when you plug a 1 in over here, you're going to get 225,000 minus 5,000. So it looks like we dropped $5,000. The next year, that house, at 2 years, has dropped $10,000. We're now down to 215,000. So you look on this chart and you notice that we're decreasing by $5,000. So that's what the slope represents. It's a decrease of $5,000 per year. So let's look over here and answer the question. Which of the following best describes the meaning of 225,000? Well, that is what the house was worth in 2004. So the correct answer here would be A. Not the value of the home in 2014. If I wanted that, I could come over here to my chart and I could put in, how many years it's been since 14, and we could plug that in there and we could, get a new value. If the house keeps dropping 5,000 every year, where we end up. All right, let's take a look at example 2. Similar type of problem. So we notice we have a linear equation here. And let's try to figure out what this represents. So a membership site offers video tutorials on programming, so maybe like C++ or Java or Python or something. The number of members, M. So M is our members. So we have the number of members, that's M, equals 400 plus 150. Now let's see what N is. Subscribe to the site can be estimated by the equation where N is the number of videos available. All right, so this is the, make this a little bit bigger here. This is the number of videos that are available. And that formula tells you exactly how many members a site has. So first thing I like to do is I like to make a little table. And the letter that's by itself, okay, is the dependent variable. This letter over here by itself. So I'm going to always put that on the right of my t-chart. I just think it's easier to kind of deal with. The letter that's in the equation I'll put here because I know I can alter it. So, you know, for instance, let's put some numbers in here. Let's just go like 0, 1, 2. Maybe we'll just do a few like that. So I always know that this constant right here, this 400, it's not involved in any variable. So that's my initial value. So on the SAT, they like to use the word initial value or my starting value. So it looks like if I have 0 videos available, you know, if I put 0 in right here, 150 times 0 is 0, and my M is just going to be 400. So what that means is, even when I had 0 videos available, somehow I had 400 members. So maybe what happened was this person had a YouTube channel or a TikTok or an Instagram, and they put out a lot of free content for a while, a lot of programming tips, and then all of a sudden they said, hey, you know, I'm going to launch this course, and for the first 400 people, you know, you're going to get it half off. And maybe there's nothing even in the course yet, but they're going to get some loyal subscribers to put the money in. So they had 400 people right out of the gate. Well, every time they added a video, so when you put 1 in for N, 150 multiplied by 1, that's going to make that number jump up to 550. When they put a second video, it attracted another 150 people. So now we're up to 700. And so on and so forth. And you can kind of see the pattern keeps going up by 150. So what's going on here is that every time we add 1 video, okay, every time we increase by 1, our membership increases by 150. You know, so that's the slope. If you're thinking about, you know, a linear equation, that number tied to the variable there is the slope. So it says, based on the equation, which of the following statements is true? For every 1 additional video, the site gains 400 new members. That is not correct. For every 1 new video, we're gaining 150 members. So it's not A. B, the site initially made 150 videos. No, the site initially had 400 people. C, the site was able to get 400 members without any available videos. Okay, so that is true. That is true because of right here. This row said, hey, we had 0 videos available and we had 400 members. And in part D, the site gains 400 new members for every 150 additional videos. They're just kind of mixing the numbers around, and that's not correct. So correct answer for this one is C. So in general, the big thing that I need you to understand is that you're going to have some sort of an equation, okay, and in the form of, and I'm just going to kind of put some random letters here. You're going to have something like this, and you're going to have some number, and then you're going to have maybe something like that. And how you can interpret this, how you can look at this, before you even know what C or D means, the number that's by itself with no variable is your initial value. Okay, that's the initial value, or that is your start. Now, this right here will tell you if it's positive, you are increasing. Okay, if it's minus, you are decreasing from that initial value. And then the number that's actually in front of the variable, okay, that number right there is the amount of increase or decrease. So even though I don't even know what C or D means, okay, I know that I can write down, we start at 500 and we decrease 25 C for every 1 D. All right? So we're decreasing 25 C's. That's the impact that it has over here. You know, so if I actually wrote my little table, this might be easier. If I put D and C, you know, and D is 0, I'm starting at 500. Well, every time D increases by 1, every time D goes up by 1, and looks like I put decrease, which I don't know why. That should have been increase because this is plus. So every time I increase D by 1, I get an increase of 25 for C. So hopefully that'll help you out with these problems. Some of them have like a little twist to them. They're a little bit different, but this will get you through probably 80% of the problems. You just have to read things very carefully.